Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, a little dinged up Joe Staszak and a little dinged up Steve Kallas, but we're making it through. I'm still local. I'm in a rehab center, no, not for any kind of brain altering substances. Had surgery the other day. If you've been following my thing, don't want to make this about me. Steve's got a rehabbed arm, but he's in a bowling tournament in Baton Rouge. He's one of the tops in the land. Everything he does, apparently.
No.
He was like
Not
Kareem
Kallas.
Abdul-Jabbar's understudy, and I think he was the actual original Hamilton in Hamilton.
Oh boy.
Steve Kallas, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. You have any po' boys down there in LA?
I always have po' boys when I'm down south. Johnny lived in Memphis for a year. I had one every time I visited him. Had two because I visited him for a length of time. And we've already had a couple down here in Baton Rouge where, it's 95 every day. You better go from one air-conditioned place to the other or you're in trouble. And plus LSU graduated this weekend, which meant there was an extra, I don't know, 20,000 people around here. It's crazy.
Because I haven't been there since '93. Didn't go to the Super. Anytime I don't go to a big game, my team wins, so I'm staying away. But I was there when the Chris Webber timeout game. That was the last, and I was a big Fab Five guy. So
wow,
I still have some. It's been a while, but good town. Always go to the place with the beignets and the muddy coffee.
that's over in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, the French Quarter.
We're going there tomorrow.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm sure my name. I know there's Morton's and name escapes me. I'll think of it. But all right, let's get to it, man. Congratulations, by the way, your Knickerbockers. Why aren't there close games anymore? We'll get to that theoretical subject later. I know there are some close games here and there. In a closeout game, I know you don't have Jason Tatum. You just went and torched the same team you're playing 2 nights before at home. I get it. That's fine. You do play well on the road sometimes even better on the road. That game wasn't a game, and they lost by 38. They shot 36% in a closeout game, even without Jason Tatum. And, 4 of the 5 New York starters, except for Josh Hart, all had 20+ points. It wasn't a game. I was expecting to see fight out of the Celtics. They're the champs. You want to see the champs show their heart, their mettle. It was not a game.
I do believe this, Joe. I think there is something to that theory that the secondary players play better when they play at home. And that's the best I can come up with the fact that the Celtics, after losing Tatum to that terrible injury, it's very sad, but they gathered and they played real well at home and they beat the Knicks, giving some people a belief that they were going to beat the Knicks 3 times in a row, which is what I didn't believe, coupled with the fact, and I think this is the reason I'm not knocking the Knicks. I'm a Knicks guy, and man, they're playing a Pacers team they can beat, but Porzingis, who kills them, has this strange, you heard about that strange virus he has, and he never looked like himself the whole time. He played, he went out, he tried, his numbers were bad, his shooting was bad, made some nice blocks defensively, but he just wasn't Porzingis. And I think those first 2 games might have changed if Porzingis was healthy. He did play, don't get me wrong, he did play, and I give him credit for trying. He just wasn't Porzingis. He looked like he couldn't make a 3, which he torched the Knicks during the regular season. And I thought he was one of the biggest keys, maybe the biggest addition to them winning the whole thing last year. So they didn't have a healthy Porzingis. But I think even when Tatum got hurt, the Knicks were going to win that game. So I think the Knicks legitimately would have been up. But I think they took everything they had. The stats, 25 for 100 the first 2 games from the 3, the old live by the 3, die by the 3. But I think a lot of it has to do with the good players, don't get me wrong, but the secondary players just play better at home. And I think you saw that last night where you have 4 Knicks, as you said, over 20. I think did Hart have a triple-double maybe? Somebody on the Knicks had a triple-double, and they said
Triple-double.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
He's the only one who did not score 20, but he might have had a triple-double.
And they said it was the first time a Knick had a triple-double, I think in the maybe a closeout game since Walt Frazier. with the Knicks decades ago. And that wasn't that Willis Reed game because he only had like 8 assists. He had like, I'm sorry, he only had, I think it was 36 points, 19 assists, and 8 rebounds, So it was even a different game. That's how great Frazier was. But, you gotta give the Knicks credit. It's the old, what's the Joe? Your best availability is what? I always.
Your best ability is your availability. I
So
did a Substack this week. I was thinking, I did your best ability is your reliability.
well,
For a
that's
little
good
different.
too. That's good
Same
too.
kind of thing. Yeah.
But it hurt the Celtics. Of course, I'll go quickly to the Cavaliers, right? They couldn't lose, right? But they had no Mobley. They had no Garland. I think they were missing another, not a starter, but another player. And so they lost the first 2 games. Mitchell played like unbelievably, and it really didn't matter. But then they got Mobley back and they got Garland back and they won a game. But you got to give Indiana credit. You saw the way they won those first 2 games. I never saw a guy like a Halliburton get a rebound like 10 feet from the basket, run backwards 10 feet, turn around, take a 3 to win the game. I did see him going uncontested to win that other game. I mean, those were 2 superstar games. I mean, Halliburton's a superstar.
Superstar.
So I think a lot had to do with the injuries with those 2. Now we're going to game 7 with Denver tomorrow in OKC. And of course, OKC love Denver. I'm rooting for OKC. You know why. I won't bore the audience again. But OKC now is looking really good because there's a real chance apparently that Aaron won't play. Have you heard the latest? He might not even play. And if he plays for Denver, I like Denver if he's healthy. But if he doesn't, I don't like Denver. I like OKC at home.
Sure. I think OKC at home wins the game. I think they win the game. I think it's their year to at least get to the finals. Although it's a tough one for me to even root for. I love the Joker. You see that turnaround he hit the other night from like 100 feet?
It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible. But he also put up in game 5. In game 5, he goes 44, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and they lose to OKC in OKC. And then in Denver, I know they beat each other on each side, but I think OKC lost the first game because this is the old debate we always have, right? You get 6, 7 days off. You're waiting for somebody to come. Denver wins the first game. The next game, what happens? OKC scores 149 or something. So I know Denver can win. I still think they can win, but I don't think they will unless they're 100% healthy, Joe. And, because Mike Malone is gone, the notion that somehow the team is better without him is absurd to me. But, we're going to see what happens. That's tomorrow afternoon. We're doing this Saturday afternoon. That's tomorrow afternoon. But, OKC's at home. I think you're probably right. I think it would have been a toss-up if everybody was healthy, but I don't think they will be. And that's the old, even if he can play, we'll have to see how well he can play. Like Porzingis played, he wasn't Porzingis, for example.
And what are your thoughts on Minnesota?
Well, Minnesota's going to be waiting. I don't like them in the first game.
I don't either.
I don't think they're going to have home court advantage either, right? If aren't they like a 6 seed?
Yeah.
So
I think they were a 6 seed.
I don't
It's
know.
a shame. You know what? Donovan
Mitchell, yeah.
Mitchell wasn't all that healthy. I wanted to see Curry play at least.
You're right.
I wanted to see entertainment. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
He's box office. To me, he's box office. I like watching him throw those bombs down. But hey, listen, what are you going to do? But Minnesota's there.
You can do.
Interesting final if it ends up Nova Knicks versus the Nova minus Dante Knicks, who was pissed that he got traded. Now he might face his old team in the finals.
And he's playing well, by the way.
He's playing very well.
As is Randall.
He started Randall 31 the other night, and he's not a playoff guy. Dante, first 2 games were struggling. He's gotten it back together. They looked like a team, and of course, the star of the team, what's his name? Anthony, the kid
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man from Georgia. He's heating up. So it's going to be fun. I think this might be one of those years where a team kind of you don't want to say comes out of nowhere because Indiana like was in the 40 win mark, but the second half of the season, since like January, they've only lost like 16 games. They're a good team. That's a very good team. And you've seen them play, even when the Cavs were hurt, they played at a high level. They bombing away when they are on, they're on. Look, Minnesota's a good team. They got there last year, very close. Denver's won a championship. And I love the Knicks, how they play. I just love how they play. I like when Brunson takes over a game. Anyone who's my height and can take over a game. We got the Nova thing going. It's just, you and I have a Bridges thing going. We've always loved him. We always laugh about that story the Sixers have in 45 minutes. But it's going to be interesting this year. There's no like real dynasty waiting to win. Celtics were, and they might be done because of their payroll going forward. So we'll see.
Yeah, but you also know that the Pope can help out the Knicks if they're in real trouble, Just saying.
Tuition, I'm sure when I'm tuition, they're over there. The
Applications.
Fathers are having a dance party, man. They win 3 championships, tuition's through the roof. The Pope's from over tuition. They're working on commercials. It's unbelievable. All right, let's get to hockey.
Let me just say this to make it. Edmonton beat Vegas in 5. Carolina beat the Caps in 5. Disappointing, but not shocking. But these other 2 that remain, I don't know if you want to do Dallas, Winnipeg, but I want to do Leafs, Panthers. Leafs, a few years ago, I actually picked them to win the Stanley Cup, which they haven't won since 1967. And here's what happened in this series. The Leafs get out to a 2-0 lead against the Panthers, who are the defending Stanley Cup champions, right? And they manhandled Tampa Bay also. But then the Leafs, being the Leafs, they lose 3 games in a row. So if I was a gambling man, I would have bet the house that the Leafs would lose 4 games in a row. But no. Leafs 2, Panthers nothing. Wall gets his first playoff shutout ever, only 22 saves, but it was nothing into the third. And then finally, our guy Matthews scores a goal, his first goal of so far this 6-game series. So now it's 3-3. Pacioretty scored the second goal, so it's kind of like 2 veterans. One who is mostly a Canadian, right? It wasn't Pacioretty on Montreal for a long time, I think. But in any event, now it's 3-3, and Game 7. And here are the stats. The Leafs, who have barely won playoff series in the last 10, 15 years, right? The Leafs are 0-6 in their last Game 7s in the playoffs. And the Panthers are 2-0 in their last Game 7s in the playoffs, which included last year and maybe the year. No, probably last year for both of them, I'm guessing. So we get back to, who's got the experience? The Panthers. Who's used to winning? The Panthers. Who won the Stanley Cup last year? The Panthers. Versus who seems to be collapsing forever. Now, I hope the Leafs win. I do. I like Tavares, even though he was an Islander. I'll never forget when he signed with the Leafs. They showed a picture of him in his pajamas when he was a 6-year-old. Toronto Maple Leafs pajamas. And they got a real good squad. But the Panthers have the experience. They've been there before, and the Leafs have not. I'm sorry. But I'm hoping the Leafs can win. You got any thoughts on that? And then you could do Dallas. I got a few things on Dallas, Winnipeg, but you could take it away.
Matthews finally came through.
Yes.
When he needed to. Remember that game's touch or go in the third period. It is nothing, and
That's
basically the clock's winding down. That's almost becomes sudden death overtime, or at least overtime. So they get a goal and then they get an insurance goal. So Matthew, their gunner, does it. And Florida, as we know, they played much better on the road. Last year, they had a 3-0 lead to the Edmonton Oilers and then went into anti-Florida mode and let the Oilers get right back in the series until they decided to play their game again in Game 7. Didn't matter. It was home. Could have been on the road. They would have won that game. I like the Panthers. They're the champs. They've been in the Cup Finals two years in a row. And the way they play when they need to play, and they have Tkachuk. And I like Aaron Matthews. I do. I think he's a very good player. But he hasn't been able to elevate his team. Whereas Tkachuk always seems to elevate his team. And Bobrovsky, I'm still, you know me, I was a Flyer, winning cups and Vesnas and all kinds of. I'll go with him. I'll go with the experience. I'll go with the champs, and I'll go with the guy who seems to elevate his team when he needs to elevate his team. And I will also throw in that the Leafs always find a way to lose. Until they change that narrative, I'm gonna have to stick with it. That's the way. If I was betting it, that's what I would do.
I think you're right. And the Dallas Stars are up, well, they were up 3-1, but in game 5, Winnipeg, Hellebuck, who's a heck of a goaltender, as you know, might be the best goaltender in hockey. He shut out Dallas, and now game 6 is tonight. And I give Winnipeg a decent chance to force a game 7. I don't know about winning, because if you're down 3-1, yes, it happens, especially in the NHL, it can happen. And like I said, Hellebuck has a shutout. He could get another one. Tonight is game 6, Dallas and Winnipeg. So we'll see what happens there. And I think you're right about the Panthers. I'm just hoping we're wrong about that.
Just for some reason, that's the team that since '67, really, a team from Canada can't.
It's sad. They were so good way back when.
Calgary's won a cup. Edmonton's won like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Even
the Rangers won one, right?
Rangers won one. Vancouver came close. Couple game 7s. Didn't win, lost to Boston in 11, and of course your Rangers in 93. I still remember what's his name. Hit Nathan Lafayette hit the post with a few minutes left, past Richter's left shoulder. But anyway, I'm over it now. So
are you?
Yeah, I'm over it now. Listen.
What about you? Want to talk about our guy Purdy?
I'm sorry. You say that one more time.
Our guy Purdy with that big contract.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Purdy, because I thought of you, and I thought, I know I used to like him more than you did. Now you like him more than I do. And I'm okay with Brock Purdy as a viable NFL quarterback. He's one of the top 10 paid guys. I know that's next up is the bigger contract, but I don't necessarily think that's the prudent way to go about your business unless you really are convicted in and believe in your guy and have conviction. If you do that, you should pay him early. Howie did that with Jalen, save some money. Jalen's not in the top 10. He's won a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes isn't in the top 10, believe it or not, I'm sure they found a creative way to. He's not, and he's won one.
Well, and Joe, and nor was Tom Brady, but I think with this guy, don't forget now, he made a total of 2.3 million his first 3 seasons combined. So you got to rank him. We've been through this before. He's another one, although he's been to a Super Bowl. He's in the list of 6 or 7 or 8 50 million plus quarterbacks that get 60 who have won nothing. None of them have won a Super Bowl. So I think he should have got paid. I think he has gotten paid 181 million guaranteed. So I think I know what you're saying, but I think it fits into what the system is today.
But I just think, I guess my biggest problem is it's not my problem, because I loved it, the fact that they waited and then they gave Dak all that money after he just lost a home game by like 14 points, and can't win a home playoff game, and threw a pick 6 and 2 interceptions, and he's not great in playoff games, but they decided to make him the highest paid quarterback, even if they could have waited one more year and then decided, even if they lose him, hey, recalibrate. It's okay to say this guy wasn't our guy, maybe, but Jerry's in love with him, and I love Jerry's press conferences after every game, because you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. It's beautiful having a villain who doesn't act like a villain. Usually villains win once in a while. They never win, which is great. But I think I like what they did with the offensive line and whatnot, and got them some help. I think they'll be better. But he's number 1, 60. He's still number 1. No one's gonna. Still number 1. Usually, like the next guy pay. No, not anymore. Dak's still number 1. I love it. But since Matthew Stafford was drafted in 2009, only 4 quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls that aren't on that in the top 10 list at Stafford. Only 4 quarterbacks have won Super Bowls who have been drafted. Like, well, those were first round picks, but of the list of top 10 quarterbacks, only 4 of them have won on that list. It's him, it's Russell Wilson, it's Mahomes, and it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a steal. He was drafted like 52nd overall. I remember I was like, oh no, they did not just draft Jalen Hurts.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
No, that's it. We can move on.
Okay, I just want to wrap it up with our guy, Pete Rose. And
Pete Rose, Pistol Pete. I saw him play at Jerry Park. My dad took me to see him as an expo when the Phillies were there. Jerry Park I don't know, I was like 8 years old. Always my guy. Loved the way he played.
It's just, I mean, they just waited for him to die. It's just disgusting. They Ron Santo.
So I think I'm gonna.
And
that's just mean spirited.
Just to wrap up quickly, and we've talked about this a dozen times on this show, the day that Pete Rose was banned for life, where everybody knew he could try and get back in a year later, the day that happened, they asked Bart Giamatti, who would die 9 days later, they said, does this have any effect, this ban for life, have any effect on Pete Rose getting into the Hall of Fame? And again, page 229 of that Kostya Kennedy book on Pete Rose, in a footnote that I've talked to you about a dozen times, he said that he pointed to the baseball writers and said, this has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. That's up to you, the baseball writers, to vote on him. 5 years later, they made up this bogus committee that voted, if you're on the list, the ineligible list, you can't get in, shafting shoeless Joe Jackson, who actually got in the 40s. He got some Hall of Fame votes for a World Series he didn't fix. He was the best player, the highest average, the only home run in the whole series, most home runs in the World Series that wasn't broken for like 30 years or something. So both these guys should be in, but they waited for Pete Rose to die. I think that's a disgrace. And I've never heard anybody deal with what Bart Giamatti, the commissioner himself, said that day, which is, it's up to you, the baseball writers, because the baseball writers would have voted him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer in 1991. But that's when they came up with the Pete Rose rule, right before it was going to be his 5 years to get to the Hall of Fame. I think I don't know, maybe you'll say it's better late than never, and I guess that's true, but the guy's dead now. And I think they did that on purpose. I really do.
That's not a coincidence. That's terrible. I am glad that finally they will get in. I know that's what he wanted. I mean, he probably could have done some things to maybe expedite, but it is what it is. But to wait, I hate when that happens. These guys let them enjoy it. Let them enjoy the Hall of Fame. Let them take their kids to see the thing. And bygone. I'm not saying I think it's awful. It's incredibly mean-spirited, and it's just, and he has to get in a certain way. There's a vote that has to happen. It's really not just about the baseball writers at this point, and he'll get in, and Shoeless Joe will get in. Not around to enjoy it, but who knows what's going on in this other life. Maybe they will, smile down on it.
Maybe they're having a meeting. Okay.
Right. Hey, great stuff, man. Good luck in your tournament. I know you got to run. It was great catching up with you. Steve, he catches stuff on his weekly, daily Facebook forum page, Speed of Sports with Steve Kallas. Also his videos on WestchesterCountyPost.com. Follow this podcast on YouTube and all the audio outlets. And you can follow me on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799 or on X. Joe Staszak 975. Great stuff, my friend. Great seeing you, and we'll do this again next week.
Thank you.
Feel better, Joe. Always
Thanks,
a pleasure
man.
to be with you.
You too, pal. Appreciate it. Great checking in, and great catching up. Good luck. We'll talk to you. Tell Joyce, give her a hug and a kiss.
I will.
Thanks,
Talk to
pal.
you later.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, folks. We appreciate it as always. And we are out of here.